The trade war has begun. Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act is risen from the dead like a phoenix from the ashes. DEI is apparently common sense causing plane crashes. Oh, and Elon Musk now controls the Treasury. What the hell kind of week do we have? But let's start with the trade war that launched idiotically, that even Ronald Reagan himself warned against. These are our allies: Mexico, Canada, top trading partners of the United States, NAFTA, the MCA. Our trade is highly interdependent. We depend on Canada. Canada depends on us. We depend on Mexico. Mexico depends on us. A lot of manufacturing is in the middle of our trade war with China was brought back to Mexico. And now we're blocking that. Yes, 25% tariffs against Canadian products, down to 10% for oil because the president of the United States of America doesn't understand the global oil markets and how that works, nor do most MAGA right-wingers. For that matter, very few people actually understand how global oil markets work. But the idea of borders when you're talking about oil is nonsensical. Mexico, 25% tariffs. And now they're doing a tit for tat with us, putting 25% tariffs on our products going into their countries. Plus, Trump announced 10% tariffs on Chinese products coming to the United States, in addition to the other tariffs that have already been out there. But a key point that apparently misses for most people is tariffs are taxes on the American people. It's not a tax on China. It's not a tax on Mexico. It's not a tax on Canada. It's inflation on the American people that is going to happen. Now, Trump even announced something that there's nothing formal about it yet, to enhance the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service. He wants to create an ERS, External Revenue Service, because he's going to lie through his frickin' teeth and say, oh, instead of the American importer paying the tariff, because that's how it works right now. When the product gets to the U.S. border, it's the recipient of the Canadian product, the Mexican product, the Chinese product that pays the tariff, meaning the U.S. company receiving the distributor, whoever they are, the manufacturer that's using the raw material or partially constructed good, pays the tariff. He wants to create an ERS, meaning before it gets to the United States, the Chinese shipper, the Canadian shipper, the Mexican shipper pays the tariff. That's just, it's a shell game because it's the same tax that's coming through on the American people. All of you who wanted lower egg prices, you wanted lower dairy prices, you wanted lower whatever, you're getting screwed over by Elon Musk and Donald Trump. Your prices are going to go up faster, most likely, than they did under Biden post-COVID, which was a combination of a flood of money in the market and profiteering by major companies. Remember, 53% of the inflation in the third quarter was, through a study, found to be profiteering by companies. Not, oh my God, the price of everything's gone up. The price of everything's gone up because rich CEO needed a 7th and an 8th vacation home and a bigger yacht on the backs of you. And between Trump and Biden, both, we flooded money into the economy. Now, a lot of that went into savings. It wasn't just being spent. So Americans, for once, were able to save money. But the trade war has begun. Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act of 1930 was actually the biggest cause of the Great Depression, not the stock market crash. It was isolationism and protectionist tariffs. This is well documented in economic papers over the last 90 years that this is what caused it. And that you elected, you meaning the people who voted for Trump, elected an economic, mentally limited person, populist, demagogue, who has sold you a bill of goods that's going to raise prices and damage the global economy if this continues. I mean, Dave, have egg prices gone down in your neighborhood?
Oh, yeah, they did day one. They didn't where you are? Day one, just like Trump said.
It's so expensive. We have empty egg shelves right now because of the bird flu. It's destroying everything, and it has nothing to do with who's the president. But yeah, I went into Target the other week to buy eggs, and it was like, oh, there's like literally, there's one left. One thing of eggs left on the bottom shelf. Now, granted, if you go to Whole Foods and you want to spend, $16 for that dozen of eggs, you can get those, no problem. But
you're not worried about inflation if you're doing that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Crissy, I can't talk to you because I saw an Instagrammer post egg prices around the world. And basically, the way it works in the kind of more developed nations, it's about $2.87 a dozen. Pretty much any developed country around the world right now, it's about $2.87 a dozen when converted to US dollars. Here in California, Dave, the absolute cheapest eggs that I can find, at least in Southern California, is about $3.99 a dozen, but they're sold out. So you're spending $5.99 a dozen.
So I did some research on the eggs in particular because I was curious. I live in Paris, so we have smaller grocery stores and then we have the bulk stores, but they're usually outside of the city center, right? So we don't have big grocery stores necessarily. We kind of shop at smaller markets, or, they're still they love a Sunday market where the guy drives in from whatever the farm and sells his actual stuff. But I don't always have time for that.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
The eggs I get are not too dissimilar in price from your most basic egg, but the only difference is I'm spending a higher price on a higher quality egg. You're getting a grade A average egg that's small, that isn't, pasture raised eating bugs, right? But I'm buying the douchebag eggs at a higher price because I want those. But
we do the same. I mean, Vital Farms and Organic Valley and stuff, we'll buy those higher quality eggs, but it really is closer to $10 a dozen right now.
Yes. And I saw even Costco is running some really good deals, and Sam's Club but of course those are all sold out, because when you go to look at it, you see the quantity price for 18 and you're like, hey, that's not too bad. And you click on it and it's not available. It's gone, right? So you're like, oh, okay, interesting. And obviously the bird flu is a major factor in that. But I mean, stupid is as stupid does with the trade war, right? Because I'm pretty sure even Bernie was like, get ready, you're about to hit the Depression era again, because if he implements this shit, it's so hard because I'm trying to be so not.
Do it, Crissy. Say it. Say it.
Stupid people will elect a leader that will kill them. It is literally, that's how it works in human history.
But human history shows us that. So, people can be offended by that all they want, but it's I cannot tell you the number of people who send me really angry messages when I just simply point out and call out facts. Yeah. Right? It's wait, you literally cannot handle the reality of what you have done. And some people don't care. No. Because they literally are like, yeah, I want those immigrants gone anyway. And I want American-made products.
That's a real problem we have in America as a society, is the unwillingness to be wrong about something. Now, if you're in a marriage,
Crissy, you're wrong.
In a marriage, you go that's a skill to have, to go I was wrong. This is a skill that Americans in general, and I am an American, but I can I can see objectively from the out. We're never wrong. So, the aunts and uncles and friends that we have that have voted for Trump many times over, even seeing his previous record, which wasn't good, they can never be wrong about it, because that is admitting that they were wrong, which Americans cannot do. They don't, in general, like to be wrong. And we have a hubris over our country that is fucking wild. And if you step outside of it, you see it. But when you're in it, it can be hard to identify. Did we really believe we're the best?
I want to challenge you on that, because I don't disagree that Americans have a tendency to not want to ever be wrong or admit that they were wrong about something. That really is not unique, though, I don't think, to the United States. For example, Japan has never, unlike Germany, fessed up for what they did and apologized for World War II and the atrocities they committed. I love Japan, but they've never fessed up to it and said, hey, we were wrong. We did these horrible things. Turkey refuses to admit the Armenian genocide, for example.
Or the Greek
refuses.
genocide. Yeah. I mean, the Greeks would agree as well. The Greeks would have something to say about the Turks as well. Like, yeah.
Right. But
Yeah.
the French have some of these problems too, where it's like, oh, we're so smart, we're going to do a 32-hour work week. Yes, but the rest of the world is not. And so your productivity is going to fall behind. Yep. And France is suffering. Macron is hitting really tough times right now. Mm-hmm. Because of that as well. Germany shut down all their nuclear reactors because of overblown fears about nuke as an excellent power source. They've suffered pretty badly because of it, and they've never admitted that.
There's a difference between a nation admitting they were wrong for past atrocities, international mistakes, whatever it may be, and the individual voter who's shooting him or herself in the foot, admitting they were wrong so they could learn and make their individual life better the next time they vote. There's a difference there. Right?
Thank you. No, that's a great point, Dave. And by the way, the only reason I laughed is I had an image. You see there's a video of some guy on a podcast literally messing with his pocket, which apparently had a gun in it, shooting himself.
And choices we got in life, those were your choices. Who shot who? Somebody got shot?
Lo, you good, Lo?
I hope. Y'all good?
Damn, Brody. Good. What the fuck?
Two of my biggest Second Amendment supporters, one of my cousins and my buddy's father-in-law, have both shot themselves. Never shot another human, never shot an intruder. One shot his foot and one shot his hand.
I love that for them.
And one of them was telling the story about shooting himself in the head while he was saying, I know how to handle guns. We need the Second Amendment. I'm a gun carrier. I know what I'm doing. Yeah, I shot myself in the hand that one time. It's like, he won't learn, will he?
That is, I think the difference is like, well, I can say, because I'm seeing how my son is educated in France, and a lot of the education that they have, a big part of it, which is going to be interesting for his generation, because Gen Z is so social media, they know everything. But the French are very much about the philosophy. So you have to engage in philosophical conversation in France, and you have to write these papers as a 16-year-old boy is trying to like figure out like the way you present something has to have all of your points and all these thought through things, and they are very deeply philosophical, questioning everything. We do not as a nation do that, right? Like, we're very proud of the things that we did accomplish that have been great, and we should be, but there's never like this anything that isn't like self-reflection and like, so I would say this to the point about Macron. He was like, hey, I've run the numbers and really can't pay for you guys unless we stretch out the retirement age, because we just need you in the workforce. There's 2 more years.
Nope.
And
riots in the street.
Fuck you. Like, we're going to burn the whole thing down again. Right. Like, as an American, I'm like, that seems reasonable. Like, you know what I mean? Like, well, who's retiring in America? What are you fucking talking about? So like, I'm like, you guys, that's fucking nuts. Calm down. Like, it's 2 more years. What the fuck do you care? You get free healthcare. You got this whole system going for you. Like, the economy's good. Like, whatever. Macron is like about money, but also like not going to be a right-wing nut job that like clamps down on gay rights and women's rights. So like, that's fine. They fucking hate this guy now. He could do nothing Macron could do at this point could be good, right? It's like, and I'm over here like an American, like, wow, okay. All because he told you had to work 2 years longer, but it was the math. The math was not mathing, right? And then we've got people in America who are like, I don't care if that math doesn't math. He's my guy, and eggs are expensive. And you're just like, but the math won't work for the eggs. If there's nobody to pick crops, your broccoli's going to go up. Like,
DEI is why prices are high. That's common sense.
The people that were Bush Republicans that knew that the work programs on the farms were saving them money and like were productive for our economy, and got the farmers. Remember, we had fucking Farm Aid. Does no one remember that? Like, we've already had crisis with farmers, right?
Many times over.
Right. And in some respects, what both Bush administrations did was they allowed the work visa because they knew if what wasn't done right by those guys was the oversight of the lives of the human rights that those workers had. Right. And they were dying and like, suffocating and in horrible conditions. But the farmers, and we know this, from living in Capitola, that's an ag. One of my best friends was the mayor of Salinas. That's the salad bowl of America. This is, California gets no credit for being one of the biggest producers. And
I think 33% of all lettuce in the United States is from Monterey County.
Correct. Yeah. And the perception from outside of California is that we're a bunch of fucking soy eating assholes, when it's like, dude, there's more fucking crops grown in California. All the Driscoll strawberries and raspberries and blueberries you fucking eat, that's Oxnard, bitch.
That's right. And Watsonville.
The gang members in Watsonville have a strawberry tattoo on their neck, right? They're fucking proud, man. You're from Watsonville, you get a strawberry tattoo on that fucking neck.
The prices are going up. Europe is actually going to suffer because of all of this. And weirdly, when we get into these types of trade wars, it harms our allies. And it's why Ronald Reagan himself, when he was president, love him, hate him. But the point was he clearly recognized that demagoguery and populism, when it comes to economics, right, doesn't work. And we know that because of what happened to the United States with the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act. And we know how that pushed the whole world, even though the United States was not the superpower it was yet, even in 1930. It helped push the world further and further and further into the fascism, into the conflict, into global war. And it hurt people here in the United States, whether you were white, brown, black, it didn't matter where you were getting hurt. And that leads to the greater divide. That's why the smart traditional Republicans, I can disagree with them on a lot of things, but I absolutely respect what Frank Zappa always pointed out about Republicans, which is they're great at doing business. Great. Focus on just doing that then, because we all do better when we have a functioning economy. When you talk about New World Order, that's the boogeyman of the populist right, for example. We have to make sure that people have jobs, work, income, ability to pay for things in life, because that stabilizes the world. It keeps us out of some of these conflicts. And when we cause this type of chaos and disorder that happens with a global trade war, that destabilizes and that leads to more actual war. And violence and harm in people. And so that's why traditional Republicans didn't engage in this type of populist trade war, because it literally hurts everybody. Nobody is better off.
I know Reaganites who are like, oh, I love Ronald Reagan, I voted for Trump. I'm like, I don't understand.
Because of the socialist left. I mean, so I do understand why certain, traditional Republicans were like, I'm not on board with Kamala, for example. I get it. I mean, I don't get it from the standpoint of I see somebody who is shredding our democracy, literally tearing apart our entire system, pissing on it, giving his pal Elon Musk direct access, unelected Elon Musk, by the way, world's richest man, Elon Musk that did a Nazi salute, a fascist salute. You're giving that guy, he has direct access out. Not only did he take over the computer systems of the OPM, Office of Personnel Management, which locks people out in violation of the Civil Service Reform Act of 1978, for example, but he then has given Elon Musk's people direct access to our treasury payment system. That's fascism in the most complete and pure sense of the word. You're giving a private oligarch who has government contracts, remember, direct access to the payment system of trillions of dollars of the American economy coming out of the federal government. That is one of the most atrocious, fascistic things I have heard in a long time of all the craziness that's come out since Trump took office in, my God, what is that, like 2 weeks ago?
It's also the definition of kleptocracy, right? It's like, but I don't think people make kleptocracy and fascism, like they don't realize those two things are always in tandem, right?
Kleptocracy absolutely happens without fascism. And that happens when you have politicians who skirt ethics laws by saying, oh, I'm not directly taking money from this donor. Right. It's my daughter who started this consulting company that's getting $1 million a year. But what we have here is direct kleptocracy. Let's talk about it that way. This is absolute straight on where, and by the way, to your point, I want to reinforce your point of kleptocracy and fascism being hand in hand. Remember Oskar Schindler, for God bless Steven Spielberg, God bless Oskar Schindler. And I say that without getting too emotional. Oskar Schindler was a fascist kleptocrat.
Yes.
He just happened to use it for good to save Jewish lives during the Holocaust.
Right.
But he literally was ripping off the Nazi government because he was in bed with the Nazis. So he was able to rip off the Nazis and steal money from the taxpayer to fund saving Jews. But that was kleptocracy because of fascism.
But there is a world where kleptocracy and fascism can be presented as fighting authoritarianism, and like exactly to that point, right?
Yeah, but this isn't it.
But this is not fucking it. No. Like it's not Robin Hood, motherfuckers.
We're giving the richest man on the planet more access and more power and more money.
Yes.
Insane.
It's literally insane.
I have asked multiple friends of mine who are Trump voters, have you ever heard of Peter Thiel? Who's that? Okay, cool. Good to know. Do you understand why Elon Musk is involved? No? Okay, cool. You don't know anything.
By the way, did we ever get a final answer on whether he lied on his immigration forms?
Yes. His brother said they didn't arrive with all their paperwork in order. What we know about America is that if you have enough money, you know, it's a golden visa, essentially.
Yeah, the EB-5.
We don't talk about it like in those terms, but as somebody who has immigrated my ex-husband from Australia, that cost almost $20,000 to do, and we were married, right? So just from the legal point of view, the fees we had to pay, all that kind of stuff, it's very expensive. And I'm seeing this a lot in Europe too, where countries are now clamping down on the golden visas and wealth and power in their countries because it's ruining their countries. So Portugal is a good example of that, right? We're happy to.
I was hoping to flee to Portugal, though.
Oh my God. Well, you still kind of can, but they're clamping down on it because it's actually destroying their own community, right? Like locally, the rents are too high. There's these jobs. There's all these British expats that came with their tons of money and have like flooded the country. Every fucking ding dong digital nomad travel blogger bullshit. Fucking, I don't even know how you're going to survive after the world explodes, but those people are all in Lisbon, making it way too expensive for the people from Lisbon to live there. So, and Spain is seeing the same thing. France never offered anything like that because they didn't want that. So
France actually drove out some of their wealthy class by raising taxes, which actually had a huge negative impact on France's tax collections.
But I think that you still will never kill that spirit of the French post-revolution, right? So it's still always looming there. The baguette is still under €1, not the good quality ones, but like, yeah, it's still there because that was such a shift. Whereas like Americans don't even understand immigration. They really don't. They don't understand it because we've fantasized it so much or we've demonized it so much that we don't even understand how it works. It would be so easy for you to pull back the curtain and look at how Elon Musk got to America and built his wealth and go, wait, what? Like that's not the story. That's not the story of Dave's grandpa from Poland coming over on the boat or what. Like that's not it. That's not the same story.
Regardless of how we got here, Ethan, if you can, because you understand it more on a tech level, and I haven't followed it as closely this week either. Explain more about Elon Musk and the Treasury Department and what else happened with him this week.
It's unprecedented in modern American history, and possibly in all of American history. So typically, there's two parts of this. Everything's computerized now, right? Start with that basic premise. The federal government has an HR department, right? So their HR department for the entire federal government is something called the Office of Personnel Management. And so that's who maintains personnel records, who literally everything that you do, hiring, firing, performance reviews, whatever, it all goes through OPM, just like an HR department in any company. And what happened this week, first, Elon Musk's extra governmental Doge agency, which I don't believe has ever been created properly. I think that there's legal challenges to that as well. But it's Musk's actual people from his private companies who came to DC. They were given the keys to the kingdom. Think of it as all the admin rights to the computer systems for the OPM.
For the entirety of the payroll, essentially, of the federal government.
The HR, right? It's not just payroll, it's HR. It's HR of the federal government. And they locked out, once they got the admin rights, they then said, all of you people who work for me, managers, whatnot, who normally handle all of this, you're locked out of personnel records now.
They actually have control over it. They don't just have total this control. Is how it works. These unelected, unconfirmed...
And not subject to the Civil Servants Act. They weren't hired through that. None of this was done with any oversight. Zero. By Congress. So Congress, remember, is according to our United States Constitution, it's Congress who holds the purse strings. This whole fake idea of impoundment by the executive branch, the president, meaning, oh, you can't now distribute these funds. Remember how that happened just this week as well, in this insane fire hose of vomit news that we get out of this administration. Impoundment is not legal. That doesn't mean that this Supreme Court isn't going to hear a case, just like saying, oh, you can never charge a president with a crime, which is insane, and was an absolute garbage, in my opinion, Supreme Court decision that's baseless. It's not based on the law. It's not based on the history of the United States. It's not based on the tradition of the United States. It's not rooted in anything other than the wet dream of a unitary executive fanboy. Do you ever say that a president cannot be charged ever for any reason with committing a crime? Oh, you mean we're supposed to stand? What I used to believe too is that the Senate would stand up to a president acting outside. No, we just saw that the Senate won't do a fucking thing when they see their own power being pulled away by a demagogic populist president who will attack our actual Capitol when he doesn't win through his supporters. And we never saw that come to fruition because Merrick Garland took his time. Anyway.
What went on with Musk and Treasury?
I didn't even get to the Treasury part. He did the same thing now with the Treasury.
And that's terrifying.
It's not legal. It's not legal.
Here we are, like, testing the guardrails. Nobody's paying attention because we're watching Trump say, oh, what do you want me to go to the crash site and go swimming?
Do you have a plan to go visit the site or meet with any of the
I have a plan to visit, not the site, because you tell me, what's the site? The water?
Or to meet with the first responders down there?
You know, that's the shiny object, and what he's doing in the background is terrifying.
Whenever Trump is saying something awful, something worse is happening somewhere else. So he's being a dick. He's saying DEI is the reason that the crash happened, and you're just like, that's outlandish, that's outrageous, I'm offended, I'm horrified, like whatever. Meanwhile, he's tossed the keys to our government, to our treasury, to everything, to Elon Musk.
Yep.
While we're not looking, we're still screaming at each other because he said DEI caused a plane crash, which is literally the stupidest fucking thing anyone could ever say. Not to mention it's heartless and awful. It's just fucking stupid. Again, I said this last week, though, everyone takes the fucking bait from this guy.
But this is why, if you'll notice, my social media has been a little different in the last couple of years, which is I don't care to react to his idiocy of the DEI. I'm commenting on it because people are reacting. my point is, and I'm glad we're actually having this conversation. I would love to hear from our listeners and viewers as well on this is what we were warning about when we were saying you can't reelect Trump. He is going to destroy our democracy. That is what we are facing right now. When you literally say, oh, the Department of the Treasury payment system is no longer in control of our government or people who are controlled by our government. It's now the wealthiest man on earth's private employees who are controlling our Department of the Treasury's payment system, who control the entire federal government's HR systems. That is where we are. I mean, this is why I was so mad these last few years with the progressive wing of our party, is everything was outrageous. Everything needed to be protested. You're protesting shit you don't even understand or know about.
Yes.
You're being a fucking moron, and you're being misled by people who are actually undermining our democracy. Again, I keep going to, you got to look at the outside forces that want us to fail. They want us to, China wants us to fail. They want to be the only superpower on this planet. And I don't mean that, again, I'm not talking about the Chinese people. I'm talking about the Chinese government, right. Chinese Communist Party. Putin wants us to fail, so we can't help support Ukraine in blocking Putin's imperialistic desires. Iran doesn't want a strong United States to help support Israel to block their imperialistic desires in the Middle East. Turkey wants a weakened entire region around them so they can do what they want. Erdogan is a monster in a much more intelligent form than Putin and the Ayatollahs. So when we get distracted and we allow these outside forces to buy off aspects of the media ecosystem and have their influence campaigns or our social media platforms, free speech, bullshit. That's a fucking troll farm. That's run by Putin, that's run by the CCP, that's run by Iran, whoever it is. I don't care. The point is that's not Americans influencing our future. We're being misled, misguided, misdirected into fighting over things that are meaningless, while people like Elon Musk have now taken over our federal government. This is where the pitchforks, the torches should be in the streets, protesting, demanding. And instead, we have an entire class of people in this country on the left and the right who have been absolutely lied to, misguided, miscommunicated, misinformation, propaganda, that they believe that, gee, our democratic system post-World War II is so bad that we'd rather fail as a country. That's where we're headed. We're not remaking America. We're failing as America when you destroy without any intent of rebuilding the institutions from within.
Yeah, well, the far left saying we're going to burn it all down was the wildest take to me, because obviously the majority of that was younger millennials, older Gen Z that can't even enter the workforce, that are like mired in college debt and don't have any life skills. And I'm just like, burn it all down. You're the fuckers that have you don't even have any savings. You don't have any, investments in anything.
You have no net worth whatsoever.
You don't own anything. So you can't run away. I'm older. Like, I've got things I've invested in. I have property I owe. Like, how is burning it down and building? Everyone is literally too stupid for their own good. Like, that's just the amount of stupidity. And on a example scale, which is something that is actually real, is the same people who are like, seed oils are ruining us, or like Fruit Loops has terrible dye in it, right? This is the thing, right?
Well,
and I'm just like, it does. Truly.
Yeah.
But you know what? You don't have to buy fucking Fruit Loops. Like, you literally do not have to buy
Crissy,
it. Or
I'm American. I buy whatever the hell I want.
You can buy Cascadian Farms Fruit Loops, which is organic and has vegetable and fruit dyes in it, which is stocked at Walmart at a similar price. And that is consumerism, and that is using your money to make a point.
You, though,
these people are just what?
If we're going to talk about how fucked up our food system is, though, that Cascadian Farms, you're getting half as much food if it's the same price. So
look, I get it. All I'm saying is you have a choice. There's no place in the world that has as much choice of products and things as America. Question. So the fact that but that's how stupid Americans are. This is my point. It's how fucking stupid. They're going to say that RFK is going to take on these major conglomerates that are in every politician, left and right's pockets. You think that GlaxoSmithKline and Kellogg's and Nestle and all these guys that have paid for everybody that is sitting on those meetings doing performance art, these commissions, they're all performance artists, right? They're all fucking paid for. So the Maha people are a great example of how fucking stupid America is, because first of all, you don't have to buy fucking Fruit Loops. You don't have to feed your kids shit. You can feed them healthy food. It's not literally, you have more choice than everybody in the world. You have more access to food than any other country in the world. So don't fucking buy it.
There's this family on social media who came here from Ukraine after the start of the war, right when Putin invaded.
Yep.
Putin's unlawful, illegal, imperialistic war against Ukraine. And I get so angry when I hear the right making any defense of that bullshit. It's just insane. You're pathetic. All of our forebears are spitting from their graves at you for allowing Putin to control the way you think about this. Anyway, and of course,
it is as stupid does.
But there's this family on social media who came here, and that's everything that you're talking about, Crissy. They're like, "Oh my gosh, we came here and we go to the store and we can buy anything. Everything is available to us. The store shelves are stocked. There's a million choices for everything." And this goes back to the whole point of how the propaganda of the populist right and far left have worked against us. We have all of this, and yet they've convinced you we don't.
Correct.
They've convinced
That's exactly
you
it.
that nothing is available. It's all bad.
Yes.
And Alex Jones's worldview is somehow correct.
And you know what the truth of the matter is? There's always a grift behind it. There's always some fucking thing that's behind it, right? So as an example, let's just keep using Maha as an example. Every single bullshit person, including Kennedy himself, has something to sell you. So they're saying don't have seed oils when we have multiple studies that have done that show that seed oil's not a problem for you. And in fact, if you use beef tallow, it's a fuck ton of saturated fat. But what no one says is don't fry your fucking foods and don't buy shelf-stable shit.
Use an air fryer.
Use a fucking air fryer, you dumbass. And then you don't have to buy anything that has saturated oils. First of all, they outlawed the majority of fats that were illegal. Remember the polyunsaturated fats? Those are fucking illegal now.
That just straight up kill you. And by the way, there's not enough olive oil.
No, there's definitely not enough olive oil. Are you guys intimating you can never get enough olive oil?
No, I'm serious. Me too.
Or garlic, for that matter. It's courses through my veins. Are you guys intimating though that Bobby Kennedy's not just going to fix all of this?
So he's not. But also, I want to go back to something, and I made the little movement with my face. Did you see in his confirmation hearing that he kept pulling stuff out of his mouth and putting stuff into his mouth? And there's a lot of people on the internet believe that it was the Zyn nicotine.
He's having a little Zyn.
He definitely. I mean,
the guy's he used to be a heroin addict. He had a worm in his brain. And he's a nicotine addict, apparently. What the hell?
The performance art that existed during those hearings was hilarious because you have people like Tom Tillis sitting up there who are bought and paid for by oil, by big pharma, by Kraft, by Kellogg's, by Nestle, by the farmers union, by the fucking pork industry, but so every single thing, right, that is in direct conflict with what RFK says he stands for and what he presents. It, like the thing that this is why I mean is people are so stupid. because I have to write and work on a health show and book doctors, a lot of what we have to do is make sure we validate and vet those things, right?
Yes.
So if someone says that vaccines cause autism, we are not going to put them on the air because we can show from many studies that that's actually been disproven, right? There's a reason for you to not question the intentions of big pharma. I am all about that. There's not a reason for you to like recognize that America's food is covered in poison, and there are all are alternatives, right? So you can eat in a way, like when I was getting Whole Foods delivery during COVID in Louisiana, people thought I was the biggest fucking asshole. I was like, I'm sorry, I don't eat like you guys. I'm just like, I eat similarly to what RFK says and how to eat. So do you, Ethan.
I'm all about the health message. You bet.
I'm all about it. But we are talking about the same people who told Michelle Obama to fuck off when she was trying to promote healthy lunches, right? Don't tell me what to eat. Americans cannot get divorced from a fried chicken sandwich to save their fucking lives, literally.
By the way, don't you dare take my fried chicken sandwich away from me either. So as much as I'm about the health message, I also understand balance. Like, I'll eat that delicious Chick-fil-A or Cane's or whatever. I will eat that, but I eat it occasionally.
Occasionally, right? It's like America is like the Veruca
I'll still eat a quarter pounder with cheese. Hell yeah. I love it.
Dude, I will eat a box of Cheez-Its whenever I visit the U.S. quietly and privately. And that's an affair I'm having. And it's fine. I know it's not good for me. It makes me feel bad afterwards, just like a bad affair. But the thing is like when people are doing this false equivalency of like, well, there's no food dye in Europe. First of all, there is. We have food dyes here, by the way. Some are even worse. We have a black food dye that is like proven to be super toxic that is in many foods in Europe. But the other thing is that it's a false equivalency.
Black licorice anyway, so thank you.
I'm a fan. But there's a false equivalency there in that a European lifestyle, and I mean this across the continent itself, they don't eat sugary cereals for breakfast. They don't eat in their cars because they don't drive as much. They exercise regularly, whether that's just walking to work or back. They get regular exercise. And in general, having a healthy lifestyle is not something that they're like, fuck you, don't tell me what to do. It's just part of their lives, right?
But these are big issues. You know, the United States, our cities are generally set up now. I mean, I'm not talking about if you live in Manhattan, downtown Chicago.
You have to have a car.
You just do. We are set up that way. So sometimes we have to eat in our cars. That happens to me periodically.
But you can tell it's a problem when all food bloggers are doing now is sitting in their cars, shoving their face with everything they've purchased. That's insane. That's insane. That is like literally idiocracy. Like, first of all, how unhealthy is it that you bought every menu item at fucking Chick-fil-A and you're going to test
it?
But
you're talking about mukbang now.
Yeah, it's like mukbang.
What the hell is that?
People are starving in the world. But just generally speaking, what is believed and perceived by people who are stupid is the main problem. It's whether it's politics, like I'm going to vote for Trump because I work for X company and I think he's going to. No, it's not. He's going to tank the whole fucking country.
I want to bring this kind of full circle back to Dave's question, which is what you are describing when you're talking about kind of the American people. And how we've set up our lives and how we focus on things. Well, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is going to save us from big pharma. I mean, there really are genuine issues with big pharma, right?
Of course.
We have serious issues that they spend their money on sales and marketing instead of investing in R&D because it's more profitable for them to spend that money on sales and marketing. It just is. It's a good idea. If I'm big pharma and I'm trying to maximize my return for my shareholders, and particularly my CEO and board of directors, sales and marketing is way better than R&D to spend my money on.
Absolutely.
And to figure out how to manipulate politicians so they won't allow the federal government to negotiate drug prices on behalf of the people, and to buy off legislators. So buy off meaning, oh, I've donated all this money to your campaign, which has the same effect.
It's the same thing.
Right. And but this all comes back to, how the hell did we get to a place that Elon Musk and his private business lackeys have taken over the federal government? I want to go back to something, because I got into a huge argument with somebody, very lefty, everything else, but from the legal profession. So I'm a lawyer, and said, well, the courts will take care of it. I'm like, you're so wrong. You're so wrong. The problem is this administration is taking the approach, and they're right from their perspective. Let me put it this way. It is a winning approach. So I'm oddly giving them credit. It doesn't mean I agree in any way, shape, or form, because I don't. But they were very smart to walk in and go, we're just going to do stuff. You're going to have to sue me. And that court process, as we just showed under Merrick Garland, is going to take years to fix, after they've already completely done the damage. And because our system was set up believing that people would act in good faith.
Right.
And so the way our federal government in particular, I'm not talking about state governments, but our federal government in particular, and we talk about the executive branch, we talk about, oh, well, so-and-so warned us about a fascist coming into office. Yeah, but they never set up a system to protect us from that, because they believed that we would have the legislative branch protecting us from that. They believed that we would have the judicial branch protecting us from that. And we have found ourselves in a place, hey, good on him. They were smarter than the rest of us, that the Leonard Leos and that whole world decided to figure out a way to undermine from the inside while people weren't paying attention. Look, again, it's the old magician trick. Look at this shiny object over here, DEI. This is real and it's serious, but to a very small percentage of the population. Let's be honest. Certain trans rights, I absolutely support trans rights. How many people is it affecting?
Right.
Versus when our democracy is destroyed from the inside, that affects all of us. But let's continue fighting in the most public way over trans rights, or, oh God, they removed the word DEI from something. Those are bad things. But when the democracy itself is under attack and Elon Musk has taken over the HR department of the federal government, the payroll and AP department of the federal government, we've got way bigger problems than any issue you care about. Because any issue you care about is meaningless once the federal government has been destroyed from within. Because you elected this guy.
You elected that guy, but to the other side of that, the Democrats did nothing.
Oh, they did nothing.
They did nothing. And not only that, they also are on the same other side of the coin of they pretend to have the moral high ground, but they're equally as bought and paid for the most part by the same party. So
what was it? Hakeem Jeffries was like, oh, God will whatever, and I'm like, what the hell kind of garbage is that?
Moral high ground is not winning. It doesn't win. I'm sorry, but it doesn't. Again, it doesn't. I'm
when
not
they go
saying
low,
that's a
we
good
go high.
thing.
Lost.
It doesn't. That doesn't work. Because if you want to retain the power, right? They're all doing the same things essentially. How many Democratic senators and congressmen have been busted, even in recent times,
Bob
for
Menendez
taking
just
money?
got 11 years in jail.
Right. Correct. Okay.
Prison. Excuse me.
Great. Okay. So that's all happening. But the difference is it's a much easier, much more winning strategy to be like, we're awful and we don't give a fuck, but we're going to do it. Right. That the Democrats, and my issue with them consistently is they just pretend. Again, it's like Clinton. I did not have sex with that woman. Yes, you fucking did, bitch. We fucking know.
I want you to listen to me. I'm going to say this again. I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky.
Okay. okay, you can be the greatest goddamn lawyer in the world, and yes, you are. Good luck to you, Bill Clinton. You're a fucking brilliant man, but you fucked that lady, and then tried to stand there and say that you didn't because the Democrats, again, they profess. So they both do this, right? Because the right have the moral majority, and they pretend they're all Christians. Meanwhile, they're just fucking grifting everybody, like from the prosperity gospel to fucking Maha movement.
And how many of them were on Epstein's list?
Correct. They're all doing it, but what people have believed more recently is that the left has the actual moral compass. They're the good guys, right? It's like, okay, well, it's also not working for you because you just look like the weak ass bitches, and like you don't have any game. So like you're dealing with mob mentality. Donald Trump is a mobster. He's a fucking mobster. He is not doing anything that you didn't watch in The Godfather. He's fucking Corleone. He's the fuck. I mean, like this is how he's running everything, and you have a country that's like, I love The Godfather. It's one of my favorite movies. It's like, well, that's definitely what you got.
He's actually beyond that, because even in the mob battles, there was some balance of power, and there were some checks and balances.
And there were rules of how you treated people.
And here we have the most powerful person on the planet in a marriage with the richest guy on the planet. There aren't 5 families there, right?
I have 2 thoughts on it. Dave, I love that you brought up the 5 families. There were real codes of conduct and ethics within the 5 families. I can say it was illegal and it was wrong and all that good stuff. But at least if you're an innocent bystander, when this stuff was going on, and I think it still does to some degree to this day with the 5 families, if I'm just innocently living my life, they don't give a shit about it. They actually want to leave me alone.
Right.
Right? This administration wants to fuck with everybody.
Yeah. You never want a power vacuum or power consolidation like we're getting right now. And that's the threat to democracy that we're facing, right?
It's crazy. But I go back to something else that you just said, and there's a reason that I never glorified and particularly liked all of the mob movies, and it was exactly what you guys just brought up. And I used to get into there are certain members of my immediate family who love mob movies and have always been. I had a girlfriend a long time ago who was like, "Oh, that's like the sexiest thing in the world." I'm like, "Nope, it's illegal. It's wrong." It's illegal, and we live in a country where if you really talk about meritocracy, which is a buzzword on the right, which is bullshit there too. But if we really believe that you can all create and you can all do and we all have an equal chance, you can't have a mob running things.
No, because if you roll it back, you know that Joe Kennedy himself was a mobster bootlegger. Like, again, right? Like, we're like, oh, they have moral high ground. And I'm seeing like, like the Kennedys all like the left Democratic Kennedys, like all like eating fucking RFK. Well, fine, fuck him. But I'm like, wow, that's fucking hubris of hypocrisy right there. You guys are wild. Like, again, stupid is as stupid does, but like you've got people on the internet and like everybody getting their information from JFK's handsome grandson, Jack Kennedy, or whatever that guy, or whatever, Schlossberg or whatever. It's like,
I mean, you do have to admit they got some good looking people though.
Great. He's good looking, but like, what's he done? Like, I mean, it's cool, but like also your fucking great grandfather was a goddamn mobster, bootlegger, Irish immigrant. Like, so like you're not coming from some huge moral high ground of like clever, played the game, won the power, but like we just buy into such weird fantasy. It's like, and it's stupidity. Like,
but we're glorifying the wrong thing. It keeps going back to the same thing. And I am not some Bible thumper on the right who's trying to claim and then being a hypocrite about it. My favorite movies were about the good guy, right? The sheriff who's catching the bad guys. No, I'm dead serious, right? It's like, and even they had their problems, but it's like I didn't glorify the movies that focused on the bad guys winning. I focused on the movies that were the supposed good guys. Yeah, I posted something on social media the other day. It's like I saw somebody else post and I reposted it. Let me put it this way, where hey, if you were born into the empire, right, the child of a stormtrooper, for example, the rebels are trying to kill this good group of people who are trying to make a functioning economy. It's all in the perspective sometimes, but the perspective there still is right and wrong, and that's the problem that we keep running into, which is there isn't right or wrong. If somebody's the left has suffered from this, the far left, let me put it this way, the progressive left. If you're a fucking murderer, you've raped, you've beaten, you're a pedophile, there is nothing redeeming. Why are we spending time and energy saying, well, fuck it, they need to be set free? No, they don't need to be set free. And anybody with half a brain looks at that and goes, what's wrong with you people? Why are you pushing to get violent criminals out of prison without a system in place that somehow can assure us that it's safe for them to be back in society? But that's how we end up. We're back to, just to keep coming back to Trump, where it's like people get fed up with the system. I've had my absolute moments over the many years now in the media, radio, whatever. The system has screwed us too. Where, again, why is Big Pharma allowed to get away with some of what they did? Why is big corporate ag allowed to patent their seeds, and so the farmers are fucked forever? And so that's why some of us a long time ago started supporting these seed savers around the country that then get labeled as crazy nutties because they're trying not to go with GMO seeds that Monsanto or others patented that screw our farmers. And our farmers had no choice because they're like, well, I can't make any money. These guys are giving me a path to make money, and it's a short term. It's like a drug dealer. Oh, here's a free drug to try today. And then they're trapped in the system, and then the farmers are just as bad off as they were in the first place. And it's like we have a system that has allowed these powerful moneyed interests to manipulate every step of the way. And I keep going back to the core destruction that led us to this day was actually Citizens United. It keeps going back to Citizens United. Unlimited dark money in politics is the most corrosive thing that can possibly happen. And here we are, a result of it.
What's wild with your stormtrooper analogy, and it kind of goes to that as well, is that you don't just have the families of the stormtrooper rooting for the empire. You have all the base of the empire is the people that the empire is about to crush, right?
Right.
They're not on your side, man. They're not on your side.
Well, let's talk about the Roman Empire then. I mean, that's ultimately what happened is they went too far, right? They went too far astray. They tried to build too big of an empire. If they had been a little less desirous, think about it. We're males, Crissy. What do we think about the Roman Empire?
I've been calling this the fall of Rome now for a good 4 or 5 years. Like since it is the fall of Rome. I'm not sure. I'm not trying to subscribe to this docuseries. It's not it's not great to watch, but I mean, it is the fall of Rome, except that it's actually worse. Like, I mean, it's fucking way worse. And I'm worried for America in the way I don't think I've ever been worried for them before. I mean, I'm American, but
yes, you are, Crissy.
I'm
now
worried.
They're them.
Well, I'm not there. I can stay here as long as I figure it the fuck out. I would marry somebody ugly as fuck if I had to. I don't give a shit. Bye. But I'm like, with everything that went on this past week, particularly the situation with Elon Musk. I think last week, prior to that, to his access to our government, to our treasury, I thought, well, maybe there's what could we talk about on this program about how America moves forward post-Trump. Now, I'm not sure what the conversation of that looks like. I really don't know for America at this point.
But it's not just for America. To the earlier points that Ethan was making, this is terrifying on a global level in a way that might make the fall of Rome look quaint. So, you can kind of joke there from France and say like, oh, over there in America, you guys, but this is global threat, as Ethan was saying before,
I know.
right?
I mean, most people know that 3 weeks after that war broke out in Ukraine, I was in Poland intaking refugees from Mariupol. Right. I fucking saw that shit firsthand. I was on the trains with the women and the children and the old people who all got free rides on the trains. I body routed people. I was handling their dogs. Zephyr was getting old people adult diapers in a fucking tent. Like, we saw the real shit and what human trauma looks like, and what war is. Like, that's fucking real to me. And I know that Europe is deeply concerned, but because America is so young, there's been like a false pretense that's happened, I think probably in the last 100 years, in particular in America, where it felt like it could never fall in any way. But particularly after World War II, right? We came back, we were stronger than ever. Now I'm like, joking about the fall of Rome, but I think, I just don't know. And Ethan, maybe you have thought about this, and Dave, well, how does America recover from what's happening?
The threat is real. We're not just young in terms of a couple hundred years. We're way younger as an empire, as a world power. I mean, you could argue even that it's not just that we came back strong after World War II, but that was really when we became the global power. So we're talking 80 years, and that's not a long time in terms of global history, world history. Rome can fall. Rome lasted way longer than this. These threats are real to our nation and to the world.
I don't want to be a pessimist, but
realist.
But the reality is, what it takes to recover from something like what we see going on right now, at least based on human history, is almost exclusively blood in the streets. And I'm not in any way suggesting anything, but the way that these types of situations typically have recovered when the government itself is being eaten alive from the inside is it's war or revolution. And either way, that's war. Make sure that, as I keep telling everybody I know, whether it's earthquakes, tornadoes, fires, floods, famine, those who have grown up in California at least should have some idea of a go kit, right? Back to the California fires, but it's more than that. You need to make sure that you have some ability to have access to water, to food. So in California, we're taught to make sure that you have 7 days of water minimum and 7 days of food minimum. And have some knowledge of how to grow food. I do that on my own because that's how I grew up in the 1970s and 80s. I'm thankful that my dad was that part of the belief system of, hey, I see all these chemicals entering into our food. That was my grandfather and my dad on my dad's side. They didn't like. I grew up with, hey, pesticides and herbicides are bad.
Yeah.
And so I grew up with my hands in the dirt, learning how to grow organic food. And, I think that this gets really, really bad before it gets good again.
And I mean, I still have to hope that the guardrails will hold in the meantime and that we won't get to any of those points. But everybody out there needs to pay attention to the fact that the guardrails are being tested by the day.
Well, it's more than tested, though, is the problem. He did a lot of testing in his first term.
Right.
And so that's why they knew exactly what they had to do on day one of his second term is, okay, these guardrails stopped us. Hey, the judge allowed an injunction. So what they've done is there's a whole strategy in flooding the zone, right? They've done everything at the same time, essentially, that overwhelms the ability of people to take action to stop them. And it's why I emphasize this point of pick something that matters the most to you, get involved, donate your money. We're about to announce this group that we've been working on to fight in one aspect of it. We're just finishing putting the 501c3 together to fund so we can take the donations and we can fund a very narrow fight. It's not supporting a political candidate. It's not against the specific. It's literally in support of one aspect of our institutions to survive this onslaught. Each of us needs to pick. Stop focusing on everything. It annoys the shit out of me. When I logged into I got into Blue Sky for a minute because that kind of replaced Twitter. I'm like, it's worse than Twitter.
Yeah.
It's worse than
it's an echo chamber of
the far left.
Of confirmed bias, which goes back to my point of y'all didn't have a good game plan. What the fuck is Donald Trump has been telling us for 4 years what his fucking game plan's going to be. And what did we do?
And we
let Nancy Pelosi do fuck all and fuck this. And we let the fucking, the shiny object over in the Gulf distract us all and tear us down. We let Iran and China and Russia laugh in our fucking faces that college kids were on fucking tents while democracy was literally at fucking stake.
That Blue Sky left-wing echo chamber isn't just clueless, it doesn't have a plan, and it doesn't even have concepts of a plan, to quote our dear leader.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan?
I have concepts of a plan.
As far as having a plan goes, Ethan, I can't wait to hear when you can announce what that group you're organizing is going to be doing. I really can't. That's a little tease for hopefully next week we'll find out.
Yeah.
Or soon.
And speaking of, I look forward to talking to everybody next week, and we love to hear from our listeners and our viewers. We are on some of the social media, but more importantly, we have an email. We have a website, shouldbeamorningshow@gmail.com. Shouldbeamorningshow.com is our website. Obviously, we're on every platform for viewing, for listening. And the most important thing, if you enjoy what we're doing here, is to spread the word, right? We don't have a budget to just buy advertising everywhere at this point. So it's highly dependent on you sharing with friends, family.
Well, so I don't want to give fucking Zuckerberg my money, man. Fuck him.
Yeah, exactly. Don't ask me to give him my money.
On the bright side, though, we're not controlled by Putin yet. This is actually our voice talking.
This is literally, this is bootstrap. It's just the three of us together. Dave, Crissy, and I worked together on radio before at KGO in San Francisco. We decided to come back together. We enjoy each other so much, and we love talking to each other and sharing with you. And we've had so many fans over the years. It's like, this is us doing this. So you're supporting this. This is an entirely free and open voice that you're hearing here. None of us are bought and paid for by anybody in what we're doing on this show. So share it with your friends, share it with your family, share it with your frenemies and enemies.
I'm not against being bought and paid for, just for the record.